How's it going? I'm your host, Evantz Saint-Gerard. I know you got questions about Medicaid and real estate and how that works together. I have a special guest today, my main man, Vlad Portnoy, attorney at large, basically in Queens and New York. And Vlad, give us an idea of what you do.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me, Evans. I'm an attorney licensed in New York, New Jersey, and we do estate planning, elder law, special needs planning, guardianships, and probates and administrations of the estate. It's kind of a five very distinct areas of our practice.
All right, so today's subject, we're talking about Medicaid and real estate and how that impacts sellers and buyers. So my first question I'm looking at right now is how does Medicaid planning impact the ability to sell a home? And what should sellers be aware of before putting their property onto the market?
Well, you have two different states. I believe your wingspan is New York City, so we're going to stick to New York because the Medicaid rules are vastly different by between states, and they also slightly differ, even though they're not supposed to. They kind of differ between counties, but because each county has their own local rules, but obviously they're all subject to New York state laws. So the issue with Medicaid is New York. There's a common misconception that anyone who's planning to go on Medicaid or who already, who said I don't have anything and they went on Medicaid while owning a real estate, and we include co-ops in there, even though co-ops are not real estate per se, but for this purpose, we're going to count them as co-ops. Co-ops as personal property because of personality, because of its shares. Someone goes on Medicaid, they said, "Oh, I've read on Google or I've heard or whatever that I can have one primary residence, almost up to $900,000 in value, where I can live. Medicaid is not going to touch it." And so, mentally, I'm not ready to give up my ownership. I've worked really hard. This is my house. And, it's very easy right now to have $1 million property in New York. The brownstones that used to be nothing that in Brooklyn for, $40,000 are now going up to 3, 4, 5 million.
Yes.
And it's a lot of money. But if you go in a nursing home that's at $15,000, $20,000 a month price tag and your private pay, that's going to cut really deep into your real estate, and you don't want to do that. So the common misconception is the clients come in and say, I don't need the trust because I'm not going to, I can have my house is exempt from Medicaid. And that's really only half the truth. The other half is when they die, Medicaid can put a lien against their assets for whatever Medicaid paid during their lifetime. Now, it's not, you might hear someone saying, when you die, Medicaid will come in and take everything. Medicaid doesn't take everything. Medicaid is a government agency. It's a state agency that's partly federally funded. They're not in the process of trying to rob you. They're in the process of trying to help you, give you free money for health care that you otherwise don't have because you don't have health insurance or you don't have billions in cash to pay out of pocket. With that said, Medicaid has what's called a state recovery, and they reserve the right at the time of, they're not going to throw you out on the street. So you can be on Medicaid and live in your house. But if you passed, first and foremost, it would go through probate. And part one of probate is finding out about all the assets. But part three is distribution to beneficiaries. But part two that needs to occur before part three is you have to make good with all of your creditors, which is primarily outside of your personal creditors. IRS and Medicaid are the biggest. And probably for someone on Medicaid, IRS is not that much of a deal as much as Medicaid. So when someone keeps the house and they keep Medicaid, and let's do the simple math. If they have a $500,000 house, which is, I don't know, it's a one-bedroom house. Let's in New York City. It's really, but let's do for the sake of of math. And they've raked up $300,000 in Medicaid expenses that Medicaid paid for them during their lifetime, while they'll live at home and they have home attendants. You have to pay Medicaid those $300,000, and then the remaining 200 goes to beneficiaries, but that's a lot less. But now let's flip it, and let's say the house is 5, but they went to a nursing home and they raked up a million or two, or they were on Medicaid for a long time and they required extra services, and now their lien is 700,000, a million. Well, guess what? The Medicaid is not going to go after beneficiaries for the deficiency, but they will take what's there, and they will have to write off the rest of the cost. So they will take $500,000 in your assets and say, okay, there's no one else to get the other 200 from or a million from, but we're going to take what we can because we paid this. This is not a God given right. This is a privilege. And you absolutely must respect Medicaid rules. And a lot of people who are acting from their own personal beliefs are not respecting the rules. And they're taking for granted what the government gives them. And it's a privilege, not a right. I'm an immigrant myself. I'm a Russian immigrant, and we have a lot of communities where people come in, and it's a common misconception because remember, they all also talk to each other. A neighbor told me I don't need a trust. Okay, fantastic. Is it, are they a lawyer? No, they had a cat and but otherwise it's the same. It's not. It's not the same.
It's not. Talk to the professionals.
Yeah, and and they come in and they say, well, in my home country, this is how this was. I'm like, well, you're not in your home country. You can't, in your head, make it right by saying, I live here, but I was born in that country, so they should treat me here as if that country laws applied. Well, if that country's law applied, you'd still be there. It's not how it works. And so that's a very, very common misconception. Everybody should understand that when it comes to Medicaid planning, or if you're already on Medicaid, you have to talk to someone and see how we can properly plan or remedy the situation if it's too late. If you just decided to, because a lot of times people will try to save on lawyers. Oh, lawyers are expensive. Yeah, I don't want to pay. I'll do it myself. And then what they come to realize really fast is they will pay hundreds of thousands of dollars that they didn't need to
fix
pay
the problem
just because they wanted to save a couple of thousand or a couple of hundred for power of attorney because that was too much, but now they're paying.
Can I share something with the audience? You're not paying a fee. You're paying for the expertise of that attorney. So just keep that in mind. Same thing with the real estate agent. Same thing for any professional that you're working with. You're paying for the experience, their experience level. You want to make sure that you're avoiding basically paying more by doing it yourself because you don't know what you're doing. You don't do this on a regular basis, and you might make a mess of stuff and make it even worse. Now you got to hire somebody else to fix that mess that you created. And like Vlad said, you had to create more of a job now that didn't need to be done had you hired that person from the get-go. My next question for you, Vlad, is how do you protect your home equity? What strategies can homeowners use to protect their home equity when applying for Medicaid?
I mean, the number one priority is transferring it out of their name, because, or rather, I should say, out of their social security number, because you can change your name easily, not so much with social security number. And what you need to do is when your creditors are looking for you, they're looking under social security number. So you need to change ownership first and foremost. Now, a lot of people say, well, obviously we advocate for trusts because those are separate entities that are independent, and you can put the real estate in there. A lot of people say, well, why do I need a trust? I can just give it to my adult child. They're not going to throw me out. First of all, okay, God willing. And I, when we do that, I usually at the closing, I usually say to parents, now don't upset your children ever. But the reality is, okay, let's say the child is amazing and everything's great. But if the child has their own creditors, the problem gets even worse. If the child is now getting divorced, the ex-spouse of the child is now going to get half of their stuff, which is half of the value of the home, where parents are still living and they're alive and well. No one's considering that. No one wants to consider that. That's a very dark assumption, but unfortunately happens a lot. What if the child has credit card debt? What if the child has gambling debt, drug abuse? All of that is going to go against the property. It happens so many times. Gambling, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, divorce happens all the time. And by the way, welcome to New York City. It's very densely populated, so I see that on a daily basis. So or again, if your child is, I don't know, there's could be many things. So
There's
you
many
want to
factors, but
protect, you want to divest the ownership, but you want it to be in good hands. So you don't want to give it to your next door neighbor because they're nice. Tomorrow their apartment will be clean and they'll be living in Hawaii or Argentina. It's Don't do that. So the trusts are the only things that basically don't get divorced, don't punch someone in the bar and commit battery. They don't ram anyone with a car accidentally. The trusts are really the easiest way to deal with this. But the number one rule is you have to divest the ownership one way or the other.
all right, so the trust is the way to go, and speak to a professional who handles and does this on a regular basis. There we go. Timing of the sale, Vlad. Is there an ideal time to sell a property in relationship of the Medicaid eligibility?
I don't think that there's an ideal time in terms of that, but if the parents have been considering downsizing the property, this would be ideal time because, for example, when they go on Medicaid and let's say a parent is retired. When they were working, they had a house, right? And now the payment, the upkeep of the house is too difficult for them physically, but it's also becoming prohibitively expensive. And they want to down, but they also and they don't have enough income to pay for this house that they don't even need. So during the Medicaid stage, this is actually something that comes up a lot, and the conversations are had with the family. And we always say, look, why don't you just sell $1 million house, get a $300 co-op
Condo.
condo or condo for like let's say a $500,000 condo, 1 2 bedroom, right? Whatever. This way, you have a single level residence, you have enough space, and the trust will also have extra cash to pay for it. Because if you transfer the house into a trust and it's $1 million and then you sell for 500, guess what? The all of this, not 500. If you sell the $1 million property and you buy a $500 residence, the trust now owns a $500,000 condo and a $500,000 in cash,
Okay.
and your trustees can use that cash to pay for the property, so you don't have to stress yourself over this, and you're Medicaid eligible because it doesn't belong to you. But the trust uh, leaves you with the right to occupy the property, and which means your kids as trustees are now your landlords, but hopefully they're not going to throw you out and you're going to be fine.
My next follow-up question would have been, how does timing affect the Medicaid benefits?
Well, yeah, right. You have to have drafted the trust, funded it with the real estate, or have sold real estate and then put the money into the trust before you apply for Medicaid. This is also a common misconception. The client may come in and say, we're going to apply for Medicaid now, and at the same time, we're going to do real estate. No, no, no. You need to do away with all the loose ends, because you go to Medicaid and you say, Medicaid, this is how the things are now. This is my income. These are my savings, and please accept me. And you have to categorically be accepted because you're under in savings and income. All of this has to be done, and it takes time. It takes time to draft the trust, review the trust, sign it. Then after that, when the trust is done and signed and operational, is when you can do anything with the property in relationship to the trust, because that also takes time. That could take a few weeks to a couple of months, 2 3 months, and then you apply for Medicaid, which takes up to 90 days. So if someone comes in today and says, I have a house and I probably need to get rid of it and I need to sell it, sale of a residence, you need to broker it. That you want to get the highest bidder, obviously, the best offer. Then you need to sell. Then the closing is set for a couple of months, 45 to 60 days at least. And God forbid something happens in between. So you're looking at 3 4 months before you even can apply, and then at the same time you can start with a trust, or whatever it is. But it all has to be clean, and then 90 days. If someone comes in for Medicaid planning was just a house, they're not looking into Medicaid until February, March of next year. And the rules are changing as of January. So there's a lot of implications, literally day by day.
All right. My last question is regarding avoiding liens. What steps can a seller take to avoid Medicaid placing a lien on their property?
Well, again, they need to they need to plan properly and legally with the property, because I can't tell you how many times people come in and say, Dad has been diagnosed with dementia 2 years ago. Well, did you do anything? No. What were we doing? We were hoping and praying that he's going to get unstricken with dementia. That's a horrible, horrible disease
That's
that
not a plan.
I deeply empathize with, but it's irreversible. And now Dad can he sign anything now? Well, no. Well, then we can't do anything. And then the next question sometimes, unfortunately, comes in as, well, can you do something and we can put a date from 2 years ago? No, we can't. No, we cannot. And that's a normal question. That's a question of someone who was too lazy, complacent, scared to discuss this, and now is desperate. And I understand, I don't judge, I empathize, but never get to that point. You can't. It's illegal. No one's going to break the law, no matter what you're trying to, how you're doing a spy. I'll give you extra $5. That's fantastic. Here's a latte for me. It's on me. It's not, it doesn't work like that. So you have to plan properly, and you have to keep in mind that real estate is the most valuable thing, because there's other ways to put liens. If a creditor really wants to, they can put a lien against your income, against your inventory. All of that is very scarce and it's very fluid. Real estate is right there. Look, there's a house. It's right here. You can't lift it and take it away to another state. It's attached to the land. It's the easiest thing to lien against. It's the most valuable property that you may have. So you have to protect it. You have to think, you have to respect your own efforts of however you came up with the money to buy this house. You worked really hard. You got this piece of real estate. You have to be respectful to yourself and your past efforts and protect it properly and legally.
With that being said, in order to protect it, you need to speak to the right professionals. So I want you guys to listen to me carefully. You're going to pick up your phone. You're going to give Vlad a call. Vlad, how can they reach you if they need to speak to you?
Well, our phone number is 212-920-6371, 212-920-6371. It connects you for whatever, and you usually want to know right away which county you're calling from, because we're in the downstate area. If you're calling from Erie County, we're probably not going to be able to help, but we'll gladly put you in touch with someone. But for anywhere from Suffolk County to Rockland and Westchester, we can help you. Our website is www.nywillsandestates.com. NY like New York, NY Wills, WILS, and Estates, ESTATS.com.
What other languages does your office speak?
We speak English. We speak Russian. We also have Spanish-speaking staff, and we even have someone who speaks a little bit of Korean. So, yeah, that's pretty much those are but we may be adding other languages also to our roster. We're probably going to also have Spanish-speaking associates very soon, because that's very important.
All right. Well, you heard it from him. If you have any questions regarding anything that we just discussed, whether it's wills, trust, estate planning, Medicaid, guardianship, anything along those lines, feel free to give Vlad and his team a call. Anything regarding real estate, whether you're relocating, you're downsizing, probate situation, whatever it is on real estate side, feel free to give me and my team a call. You can reach me, my cell phone, 917-975-5985. Again, that number is 917-975-5985. My office line is 718-475-2760. And our website is mynyhomesales.com. You can find us throughout Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I do not dance, so stop asking me that. LinkedIn, pretty much everywhere on the internet, YouTube, I'm everywhere. So with that being said, if you have questions that we have not answered so far, you want more information, feel free to reach out to either one of us, and keep the questions and comments coming. We're here to help, and that's pretty much it. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and have a great day.